Welcome to today's Google Apps for Education Professional Development webinar on doing more with spreadsheets in Google Docs. We have Ronald Ho, who is the product manager of Google Docs here, who's going to be able to share some demos with you and walk you through some of the different features that you can use with Google Spreadsheets. Just want to let you know that this webinar is being recorded and you'll be able to access it via a YouTube link that you will get later this week. I will also share Ronald's outline of the features that he'll be reviewing, as well as the question and answer transcript. If you have a question throughout the webinar, please type it into the Q&A box so everyone can see the question and the subsequent answer. So I'm going to go ahead and let Ronald start sharing his screen.
Thank you.
And again, if you guys have any questions throughout the webinar, ask them in the Q&A box, and I'll try and address them. And the ones that I can't address, I'll be sure to ask Ronald at the end of his presentation, and he can go through any other questions or concerns that you have.
Great. Hello, as Dana said, my name is Ronald, and I'm the product manager for Google Spreadsheets and Google Forms here at Google. I'm really excited. I really love spreadsheets. I really love the education users that we have. It's always a pleasure to show off some of the things we've got going on and show off some new things that we've recently launched. Today, I think I want to focus on more like the intermediate to advanced version of spreadsheets. Really, spreadsheets is not only just a data collection tool. It's really about crunching numbers, gathering data, visualizing data, and there's so many things that you could do with it. And I just want to walk through some of the really neat things that we have today. So I'm going to generally cover charts. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the gadgets that we have, some fun, useful gadgets. I'm going to talk about forms, how to create specifically grading quizzes. These are really all about having you save time and not need to grade your quizzes. Use one click instead and grade all of your quizzes, and actually reserve and give you back time to actually go come up with innovative lesson plans and not worry about the grady parts of teaching here. And the other thing is, about some tips that we have, and we'll also talk about some of the neat advanced things like restricting what you can write in a cell, do in-cell drop-downs. I'll talk briefly about some mobile things that we have. And lastly, I'll talk about some fun stuff that you can kind of take home and share around the dinner table. All right, let's get started. So first of all, first thing I want to talk about is charts. Charting is incredible. There's so many things you can do with visualizing your data. And back in November, we launched 18 new charts, and we also launched a completely new chart editor a completely new and revamped chart editor with a lot more options. And we also launched a whole new help center and a new set of articles for charts. If you simply search for Google Spreadsheets charts help in Google search, you can easily get to the help center. And one thing I really love about the help center this time for this chart specifically is that, as you can see here, we have a whole bunch of specific articles about the chart types that we offer. So I'm excited. We also start with lessons in terms of getting started with charts and publishing and embedding charts elsewhere. So let's get started. Let's talk about charts in general. Like, I've got my creativity here. I've just simply put in times, and I've put in train, race car, cheetah, and a human, and trying to say how many feet could we run at every single point in time. So what you could easily do is highlight data, hit chart, and back your chart. As of 2 weeks ago, this was pretty much all you could do. You could go in and you can, let's say I want to make this into a bar chart, make this into a column chart, make this into a line chart. Down here, we provide recommended charts, and if you want to dive deeper as well, you can go in and dive deeper and see what other types of charts we have. let's say you want a smoother line chart. We've now smoothed out all the lines. And we gray out the ones that don't apply to your data set. So let's go back to here and put back bars, and let's say I'm just the type of guy to like purple. I can show all of this shades of purple, if you will, or pink, I guess. So, and this is, purple there. Of course, you can put in titles and say this is, this is race data, and say I want to maximize this at 100, for example, and be able to hit insert. Once I insert, this chart in here. Wow, that chart really is ugly. So we now move that around, delete it, etc. 2 weeks ago, we finally launched the ability to graph disparate ranges. Because let's say I wanted to graph time, only the race car, and only the human. How would I be able to do that? Before, I'd have to somehow reorganize my columns and drag them around in order to get them together. But we introduced the ability to graph disparate ranges and separate ranges. All you do is simply start again. In here, hit select ranges. In select ranges, you can select the first column you want, add range, second column, add the range, add a third, add a fourth, add a fifth. You can even select chunks of a column as well, not simply one column. Hit OK. Once you hit OK, we've only graphed those three things. So finally, you're able to disparately graph whichever one you want. And we can graph not only into separate columns, you can go separate rows as well. And here you can control how you want to graph them. You can either combine them vertically or combine them horizontally, and then switch your rows and columns as necessary. So the way to do this, and you can again get access to all the different chart types that we have. So this is really, really exciting. We're finally dedicating time to putting in and revamping and adding a bunch of features that users have requested this whole entire time, which is great because what we've spent the time doing beforehand is really building a solid piece of infrastructure so that we can easily add all these new features on top of it. So we're very excited about this. Real quick, let's check out some of the other things that we have. If you notice, let me pull up the chart editor again here. If you notice, you have a bunch of different charts. Really, the secret is moving the on-line area column and bar. We've got scatter charts that you can use. We've got, pie charts are kind of normal, but in trend charts is where some of the more interesting charts are, and I'm going to show you some examples of those right now. And under more, of course, is where all the hodgepodge of charts, including gauges, organizational charts, etc. So let's dive into that a bit. So let me look for my motion chart. For those who are familiar with motion charts and motion chart here, there's certainly a lot you can do. You can pull in all this data. So let's say here, this is some data from a couple of years back. It shows the state, shows the year, shows housing price index, shows unemployment rate, shows the region, shows population of that region, and then percent subprime loans. So this is about trying to visualize what happened to the economy per state across many years. So I have data from year 2000 all the way to 2006, excuse me. And how would you try to visualize this? You'd want to slice and dice it per year. You can create multiple charts, but with the motion chart, you really can take this to the next dimension, really, namely add in time across all of this. And now we used to offer this as a gadget, but now we offer this as part of the actual charting suite as well. So you can go through the same exact area. So let's say I highlight all of the data, hit entire range, and immediately what we do is we recognize that your data has an element of time to it, or has an element of multiple different dimensions. If not, if we weren't able to detect that, you can always go to more charts, hit trend, and then select the motion chart. Right here, you see the motion chart, and you're able to see what you see the data visualized here in multiple things. You can cut a couple of things, including putting a name on it. You can put it, show the buttons, or remove the side panel, etc. But I want to keep all of it. I hit insert and insert it way at the top here. It doesn't like I actually grabbed all the data, no problem. Let's hit the chart, select the range, and grab all of this all the way down to here. Back into there. hit a chart, go back top, and so now I can actually hit play and literally watch the watch the data change of the housing price index versus unemployment rate. Each bubbles are states. So the state of California here. I think this is one of those races you don't want to win here, and it's really just taking a hit there. Let's say I wanted to see other things, for example. Let's look at the housing price index versus housing price index is already there, but let's look at percent subprime loans, right? Let's start this track again. So as in 2000, the percent subprime loans are really going down, but as housing price index begins to increase across time here, you can see that things change, and all around the percent subprime loans really increase in 2003 and 2004, just simply spiked. You would not have been able to see this on any standard chart that you build. So the motion chart really here is one of our most probably penultimate example of a fantastic visualization that we have. And we've had teachers use this to try and graph plant growth across time, trying to show students that, showing that how a bean plant would actually grow across time and across the couple of weeks of a science experiment. We've also had some school districts, some teachers use this to track school progress and say, look, where do we need most help across the 2 or 3 years or across the 9 months that we have? What kind of data can we see? What are some of the outliers as we see? Which classrooms, which teachers, which elementary schools have been showing a marked increase or decrease in what are their trends? These are just very fantastic different ways that people have used this chart. So this is certainly one of the more advanced charts. You simply go and search for in the charts help content, and we have motion chart here under the chart types, and you can just grab a quick example of the motion chart here. So that's one way to go. And of course, at the end, I'd love to kind of grab some time to talk and answer questions. So, okay, go back to my reminders here. So, gauges. One of the chart types we offer is the gauge. So let's go from brilliant motion chart to very simple gauges. And here you can see go to the gauge help content. Let's grab an example of the gauge content. And anyone can do this. So if you're following along, you can feel free to grab this gauge. Just use this template. Immediately, what happens is it copies it over to your document list, and now you can have everything at your fingertips. So I can actually show what's going on. We have a lot of folks who use this to just show progress. Like what are the fundraising goals that everyone has had? What are the different schools? What are the different progresses students have made? I don't recommend using this as showing off grades for each individual student, but certainly you could do that as well with this gauge aspect. So here you can customize the gauges and determine which you want from min to max. Let's say you want the green colors from 0 to 25, the minimum from 25 to 75, and the maximum for 100, right? Let's say I easily extend my maximum to 200, and all of a sudden it continues to expand all the way there. Pull back down the intensity here, pull it back to 100. And as you change any of these, let's say this is first period, the second period, this period, and these are their goals, and how many of them have actually hit their goals. Let's say first has not done that great of a job, but potentially second period's absolutely killing it. And the third period is, kind of hanging out in the lower end of the exceeds category here. So there's multiple different things that you can do. Now, for those of you following on at home and are like, well, what can I do with it now that it's simply in a spreadsheet? You can publish this image, for example. You save it as an image. What it does is it downloads the image. You can put this image into whatever you want and then embed this elsewhere. So I just opened that image. It saves as a PNG, which is viewable in any browser or anything else. Other ways to go, if you really go here, would to publish a chart, and it's a little bit more advanced. You can read more about this in our help content. You can publish this as an interactive chart, where whenever you update your data in the spreadsheet, it will interactively it will automatically update on a web page. You can either publish as an interactive chart or publish as an image, where you can just grab an image of what you see here. That will also update every time you refresh. So these are kind of more advanced things that you can do.
So Ronald, could you embed that image then in a Google site? If you had like a dashboard in Google Sites?
Yes. So the way to do that actually is, this is kind of bear with me a minute here. You can publish a chart, you can go into image, and simply copy the in between the quotes. This is not the most user-friendly thing, but this is a way you can sneakily copy this. This works for all that we offer except for the motion chart and the annotated timeline. For various reasons, we're not able to offer those just yet, and we're working on getting that. We're working on being able to embed that image. But the ones I just mentioned, like motion chart and annotated timeline, you can still publish the interactive chart, and that's just not easily an image. So, okay, I can cover the embedding an image of this later, but if you're lost now, don't worry. We'll send this out later. Okay. So taking a look at the next thing, annotated timeline. This is another one of my favorites, actually, other than the motion chart. This is probably my second most favorite one. Again, best place to get a quick one to play with is just go to the help content and say check out an example right away. Click the example. Once I get to the example, I just say click on use this template, and it will copy this to my doc list, and I've already got this to play around with. It's really neat because if you look at this, all I've done here is input this day, all days that I want, all the customers that I have, all the comments that I want to show up, the dollars that my supplies cost, and other further comments that I want. What you do is you literally highlight all of this, hit on the chart, hit chart type here. And first of all, we recognize that it's an annotated timeline. Of course, I organized it so that it would show up. But if you follow the template that we have, you can easily put this in. Once you hit insert, you get exactly what you have here, which is a fully interactive timeline that you can do and zoom in on. So imagine many different ways to say, here's I'm tracking progress of my students. Like B right here is there's a certain test that was offered, a certain reading curriculum that was offered, a homework assignment that was offered, and you can continue to watch and show. You can use this timeline to really point out key events across time that you want to zoom in on or want to take note of. In this particular case, what we do is we show the supplies, we show the customers daily, which is blue, and show red for supplies that I've stocked for my store. And notice that at E, the reason that the customer spiked was that I actually had a PR event. In B, if I click on B, I actually put a sign on the street. I hired a guy on the corner of Main and First, and he was just holding up a sign, and I got a little bit of a customer bump from that. I also noticed with C is when I had a new agreement with a new supplier, and I got more and I got supplies. You're able to call out many of these different things from your annotated timeline. If you wanted one line, for example, you can just simply have just one, only these first three columns. So I really leave this up to your imagination of all the cool things all the really neat things that you could do with this particular chart. Same thing with the motion chart. There are a million and one ways to use this to convey what you want. And lastly, let's take it to something that you didn't even know could have been done in spreadsheets, right? So let's talk about the org chart. In the chart, we all work for somebody else. That's just the way it goes. Like for me, the way I like to describe it is if there was a totem pole denoting the rank in our company, I wouldn't even be on that totem pole. So this is the way I would try and describe how visualize the org structure. So I report to a guy named Jonathan. Jeff reports to Jonathan as well. Julia reports to Jonathan. I'm able to highlight all of that, hit the chart, and because I've denoted which is the employee, which is the manager, and what this visualization does, it automatically repopulates all of it and denote and pieces it together for you. So I'm able to say, for example, that Shauna rules the world here. Jonathan reports to Shauna, Ronald reports to Jonathan, and lets you know that there's a manager-employee relationship based on that. And if I didn't want the manager-employee, I could not highlight like the word employee and manager as an example. So this is another neat way to just kind of show hierarchy at anytime you ever need hierarchy. Great way for family trees and other things that students may be interested in. So okay. So that covers charts. There's a ton of other charts. I can walk you through bar charts, line charts, scatter plots, but that's those are fairly self-explanatory. But those were kind of my favorites, the kind of charts, the annotated timeline, gauges, and stuff. But the takeaway is that with our new multiple disparate ranges, you're able to get a lot more flexibility with the charts that you have. Yep. So let's talk about some gadgets. Kind of switch gears a bit. Let's also talk about things that you add onto your spreadsheet. So I like to think that our job here in Google Spreadsheets and at Google in general is to help you do your job better, and to remove friction from simply staring at a data set in Google Spreadsheets and say, how do I just get beyond just words in a cell and move it over to rich visualizations that you can have? Here's one example. See, I've got a bunch of different things here. I'm going to show off something I call the word cloud. And word cloud. The public templates here. Go to word cloud gadget. Templates galleries open up the entire world. The public templates are. If you have a Google Apps for EDU domain, you have your separate domain, a separate set of templates that you can offer. You can offer your schools. You can use it for your school-specific decision form, referral forms, progress reports, whatever it is. I'm sure there are positive uses for this as well. Public templates are anything that other users have uploaded. In this case, I've uploaded an example of an advanced word cloud gadget sample. Let's use this template, and I'll show what this does. Here, what I've done here is I have put in hide a second so I can speak about this. I've put in the famous speech by Abraham Lincoln, the Emancipation Proclamation here, 7 years ago, in the spreadsheet. First of all, your first question should be why even bother? But no, it's interesting. All right, excuse me, this is a Gettysburg Address. I'm a real person. So this what I've just put this address here, and I can analyze this based on the words. I say, oh, okay, well, I'm curious as to how many words, how often do they show up, that sort of thing. Just kind of giving, a better understanding of what that analyzes that word choice. I've done what we call the advanced word cloud gadget, and I will show where to get this later. But as you see here, what I've done here is it shows that nation is used a lot. The word dedicated is used a lot. The word have is used a lot. People, etc. Fascinating. For those of you English majors out there are probably wondering why the word the or the word and are not showing up as very, very frequently used. It's because you had bad grammar. It's because of the advanced word cloud gadget. Usually, the advanced word cloud gadget here, you can actually edit out certain words that you have or don't have or don't want to see. Let me pull this up here. Oh, that's right, insert gadget. This is where you get this. For example, with this gadget, you can now say, I want this entire range, and let me select the range here. And hit OK. And then I choose what words to ignore. And in this case, we've already said and, or, in, the, with, that, etc. You can ignore. And then simply apply and close, and then this word cloud gadget will show up. In case I didn't highlight the entire speech, and if I had, I would have been able to get the same identical one as this one over here. Now, how might you actually use this? How do you use this sort of semantic analysis in your daily life? It's a great way to kind of just show the general sentiment of how things are going. We've had people use this for marketing surveys, for rubrics, for scales, to say, hey, how do you feel generally about whatever it is, and open it up for comments, and simply highlight this and show off all the different comments that you have, all the different type of analysis of words that were used, things like good, great, etc. For example, the way I use this in my daily life is I conduct a survey of how I'm doing, and before I send it to my boss, I just copy this all, throw this advanced word cloud gadget, filter out words like not, terrible, idiot, and then it just looks great, and the reviews just look awesome. So you're able to really kind of use this gadget for things of that nature. I was kidding, and that wasn't a great example. But there, you can also really tweak your semantic. You can tweak your visualization to show that off as well. Yet another example. Okay, and then there's a treemap. Treemap is another one of my favorites. And just to drive home the point, I've also posted this already in the templates gallery that you can actually access. So I'm gonna search for treemap, and because it's there, I'm gonna use this template. Treemap here in level 1, level 2, level 3, I've shown a different hierarchy of where your 2008 spending of the U.S. government budget is. With all of this, it's shown in billions. I simply click insert gadget and search for the treemap. And simply highlighting all of this, organizing it levels 1, 2, and 3, you now see this already visualized as well. Doing this because then everyone always inevitably asks me to search for the education portion of this, and it's always this really small dot somewhere, and it's not a great thing. But it shows you very interestingly that like Social Security, National Defense, Medicare, Healthcare, etc., are like the large chunks, and you can deep dive into them because you've already organized it by levels 2 and level 3. And this is all just yet another example of a great visualization. We've had this used a lot of times. This visualization, this gadget is used for budgeting. In fact, people are able to take this to the superintendent, take this to the principal, and say, look, based on our budget, here's where all the money is going. And with a quick glance, you can immediately see where all of this is headed. So really, really great way to again visualize data that just typically just a large list of data. How you visualize that, you can use these charts and gadgets.
A quick question about the word cloud gadget that you were just showing. It had like a search URL as an option there.
You can take that out. I can't remember. I don't remember what that search URL does. I believe you can, by clicking on the words, it'll just search YouTube for that. You can write whatever you want. You can use Google.com. You can use Bing, whatever.
So the words that show up in the word cloud,
I believe they're clickable,
click on that, it'll take you to the search engine for that. Okay.
You can always just delete. So you can also delete that as well. So, keep asking. You kind of forget this. All right, let's move into forms. Let's move into, now that we've sufficiently wasted your time with a bunch of interesting visualizations. Let's try and help you save some time by allowing you to grade your forms quicker. So let's do this. Let me just create a form. I'm assuming most folks know how to create a form. If not, you can play this part in slow motion. But I'm going to click Create New Form. In this form, this is my test. This is my test that I'm going to send to all my students. I'm going to say the question title is gather their name. Give me your name. Give me your fill in. How do you think Ronald is doing? Right? And let's make this a multiple choice question. Let these do good. Great. Awesome. So let's do that. The same. And just to make this, let's make this a required question. And so for you who don't know how to make a form, this is kind of just as simple as it is. And from here, you simply just route this form to anywhere else. So let's assume this is a test I would give my students. And hit save. And usually see the responses in the spreadsheet. When you open up the spreadsheet, you'll notice that we've already populated the timestamp, the name, and how you think Ronald is doing already. Now, what I do is email this form out. Let's say I email it to my students here. In this case, I guess I'll email it to myself since I'm the only person signed in here. And here.
Mail.to.
Yeah. Off the service. Okay. So what we're straining with this point is that with Google Apps or EDU, you can have full control for us. So I guess the last person who used this domain decided they wanted to show off the fact that if you don't want Gmail, you can completely turn off Gmail. So let's use that as a learning opportunity. In that case, I will then go to, I would click on this link down here, open up the form itself, and then fill out this form. So let's try and do this. So here's spreadsheet again. Just recap, here's the spreadsheet. Here's the associated form. I can put theme on this, make this pretty, but let's say I'm filling out this form. Ronald is filling out this form, and let's say I'm doing great. I hit submit. Okay. The form, just to illustrate this, let's say Dana is filling this out. Dana thinks I'm awesome. Let's submit. And let's go back to the spreadsheet. How do you do this self-grading? Now, you notice within, near real time, this data has already shown up. Data has already shown up for me. You've seen that Ronald Ho and Dana have filled out this spreadsheet. Let's give them a grade. There's a couple ways to do this. And a couple ways to do this, simply using an if formula. You can get very creative and pull and use formulas up the wazoo, but this is probably the most straightforward way to easily grade a quiz. So imagine that I've had tons and tons of different responses from 30 different students, for example. Easily able to say equals if this value is equal to awesome, then give person 100 points. Not, give this person 0. Answered great. This person has gotten 0 points, but the answer obviously is awesome. And Dana here has gotten 100 points. So this is you're able to easily just click and drag as you watch me take this over here and click this little here and drag all the way down, and you can then continue to grade all the things here. Everyone down here has gotten 0 because nobody else has filled it out. And you can simply drag all of this down this way. Once all your have filled out the quiz. So some teachers love to do this, and this is a little bit skirting on the more advanced side of spreadsheets here, is they simply put the answer up in here. Let's say the answer is awesome in this case. I simply say equals, let's do this first. Equals if this is equal to here. Now, pay attention in this case, because I cite this, if I drag down, let's say I continue giving myself 100 points, Ronald 100 points if he's right, and 0 points if he's wrong, and I get 0 points. But what happens if I drag down? What happens to Dana? Why does Dana get 0 points when clearly the answer is she got the right answer? If you click on this and double-click on this, we'll show you the colors on here to show you exactly what happened here. What happened here is that you are comparing Dana's awesome to the cell right above it, but that's not what you want. You want to compare it to D1. So you would do that is actually do what we call freeze the cell. For those who are familiar with freezing of the cell, you simply put $sign of D and 1 to say always pull from D1 all the time. Try that again. So here, let's clear this out again. Start equals if this cell is equal to D1, simply just go back here, hit $sign, 1 point, 0 points, hit enter. And I drag down. Notice that the reference of the cell still stays at D1 because of the $signs. We've told it to always freeze at the top. So what some folks do is they add the answers at the top, simply put in this one formula, drag all the way down, and they're completely set with where they want, with what they want to grade. And it's a really, really quick way to grade multiple choice questions, text questions, really, really quickly. And it's a great way to finish grading those 30 quizzes and get right back to teaching and inspiring the students. So that's a great way there.
You might do tiered, like for example, if awesome was 100 and then 50 is great, or great is 50. And then,
okay.
So this would be probably like nested if.
Yeah, I would do nested if statements. It certainly gets really crazy. there's a few ways to do this. Okay, here's another clever way to do this. Okay, so let me, this is an easy way to do this. I wouldn't suggest this, but I'll do this anyway. Let's add another person here. Let's add Mike. Chances are knows the Mike. So let's hit OK, and let's go back to the form. Let's say Ronald try again one more time, and he's shooting for the gold here. Since I answer, I will cheat. And hit OK. Go back here. Now let's say I want to tier all the answers. If you're uncomfortable doing nested if statements, you can simply put an if within an if and say that, if, I'll give you a quick example here, trying to do nested if statements. If equal to, actually no, let's not do the nested if statements. That's just too crazy. But let's do this. I can say good, great, and awesome up here. Simply put, if, just quickly here, if this answer equal to this one, and again, let's freeze. Let's freeze properly here. Then give the good guy not equal to great, good, then give it 0 points. So I'm going to drag down. That's one person that's 20 points. Why? Because I compare it to the word good, and I got 20 points. Now, for those of you who are kind of looking ahead here and seeing what I'm going to do the same thing with great. And say that if great is equal to, if the answer here is equal to great, now put in this here, and let's say I give the guys who answered great 50 points. If they're not, 0. So it's here. Okay. And notice only one person answered great. Now, let's look at the kids who also answered awesome. Equals great. And click on that there. And then 100 points. 100 points. Oh, excuse me. Wrong. Okay, here. And drag out. Now, what you can do is use another set of formulas to calculate your total score to these students, right? Simply say, I want to sum across all three and total grade this way. So this got 50 points, this was 100, this was 20, and 20, etc. So that's just a super easy way. If you're very uncomfortable using nested if statements, you can simply go this way. Of course, the longer the quiz is, the crazier, more columns you'll get. But in the end, I'm sure you'll be able to once work it out, create a template, and be able to cut and paste really easily.
Participants are also mentioning that lookup could.
Lookup is even more nuts, and if Dana ever decides to offer you've got to be crazy to watch this web seminar for spreadsheets, then yes, I'd love to come back and talk about the lookup then. So yes, but that's certainly yet another way to go. Okay, I'm kind of fast running out of time, and I want to leave some time for some of the time for Q&A really quickly. I want to show a couple of things that for those of you not sure about what we've done lately. Here's a couple of things that we've done. We've allowed the ability now to remove grid lines. So you ever hate the grid lines, it really kind of makes your vision go crazy. You can hit View and hide grid lines, and all of a sudden you're left with complete tabula rasa of your spreadsheet here. And it is a refreshing way to look at your data. In which case, let's see, let me pull spreadsheets open here. Right here, if you want to just remove this, hide lines, you just completely a different viewpoint here. All your data right here. The employee data is much cleaner. You're not distracted by all the different grid lines. It's a really great way to kind of expose and show folks everything you've got on you. And of course, another really neat thing we've done is revamp our revision history completely. I should have probably looped in Dana here to add some changes so you can see, but if you hit go file to see revision history, we show current revision history by time now, and actually shows you at each time what has actually changed, and we denote that with a different color. And if Dana, anyone else were in here, we would show them as a different color as well. So let's go look down at 5:06 p.m. Pacific time. I added this entire chunk here. 5:08, what did I do? Well, at 5:08, I deleted a whole bunch and left those two at the top. So with completely revamped revision history back in December, you can now see this and restore any of them if you need. So if somebody goes rogue, you decide you don't want it, you can easily roll back those changes to a certain point in time. So that's where you go. Another thing, restricting cells. Oh, this is a great one. This is another one that's kind of important. So let's say I wanted to have folks, let's open up a new spreadsheet here. I wanted folks to answer, input something here. Input your city here, right? And city, let's create this box. And let's turn off Gridlines, just to prove a point, prove can. Let's input your city here. And I'm going to tools, go to validation. Criteria, I can restrict what numbers I want there, but let's say I want to restrict from a list of specific cities. I can click here and go items from a list. And I want to enter the list items. So Chicago, Fremont, and Seattle. Okay, it's safe. Now, whenever somebody who clicks here, they can actually hit a drop down and hit, say, Fremont, for example. If I input something else, for example, like San Francisco, it'll throw a error that says invalid cell contents. Or I could even say that they can't even put that validation type on there as well. So effectively, we've made the ability to do multiple choice within your spreadsheet. Now, let's say I had a list of cities that I wanted to use. San Francisco, New York, and Montreal. So let's tools. Let's edit the data validation on this spreadsheet on this list. Instead, create a list from the range. So let's go. Let's cell range that I'm looking for. I want to only offer these three. Hit OK. Okay. When you click here, it'll only be these three cities that you designated here. The reasons for this is folks have used this for cost center codes, for example, so you can only enter these certain codes. If you're certain teacher's name, for example, you can only select from these certain teachers, or whether I'm denoting first period or second period, etc. It's a great way to actually put together a spreadsheet template and then distribute it to everyone else, but have that validation there so they can know not to do that. Now, covered that, and we can easily point out help content for this as well. I'll link this quickly, mobile phones. For those of you who don't know that, if you have an iPhone or an Android phone or BlackBerry with mobile Opera, actually, you can actually go and view spreadsheets in a very simple list view format. We don't do anything complicated just yet, so there's no idea of complicated spreadsheets in there because we want to keep that experience very lightweight for those on mobile networks. And a great way to really quickly see spreadsheets on the go, make quick changes. It's not fully real time, but you can refresh to get this content. But you can easily just get that on the go. Now, in the last 3 minutes that I have before I open this up to Q&A, I want to just a couple of things that you can kind of take home and share on the dinner table. One of my favorite examples, and Dana knows that I really, really love this example, is the idea that you can really impress and help impress your colleagues, and with any of these right here by simply pulling up a Google spreadsheet. If you're like me and you did not get hired for your creativity, Google Spreadsheets really has your back at this point. Again, the example I always give is that around every day, maybe happens twice a day to me. Somebody will walk by and say, "Quick, Ronald, give me 20 random fruits." And I say to them, "What? But let's have that request twice a day." You can really pull up a Google spreadsheet, type in the first that come up to your mind, say apples, bananas, and oranges or so. To whatever you want. Simply hold down Option on a Mac or Control on a PC, and simply drag down by simply pulling on that knob. And what we're doing is we're gonna populate this from our search results to pull related items. In which case, we've added several fruits, including cherries, plums, pineapples, grapefruits, etc. And you feel free to drag whatever you want. Like we've had people drag the Rolling Stones down and actually get other musical artists from that genre of music as well. We've also done cities. We've also done states. Like, feel free to just try this out at home. Really, I guarantee some of you will bring a laptop to dinner tonight and be like, "Wow, look what I heard. This is probably the most useful thing I got from Ronald today." And all right. So there's also a few other formulas that are very specific Google formulas. You're never going to really need to use them, but you're never really going to need to use them when you're using Excel. But when you're using Google Spreadsheets, you can. Like, let's manage your stock portfolio, right? Let's check the share price of GE, for example, Google, and Yahoo, right? use our Google Finance formula. Google Finance, click symbol here, and let's say I want to find the price. Grab the price. At last check, $19.89. Drag down, get to everything else as well. $577, $16.35, whatever it is. So a quick way to do that. And if you search through our help content, simply type in Google Finance and Google Finance, Google Spreadsheet, you can see all the common list of attributes that you can actually get. You can get market cap, volume, beta, the beta of that, the currency, the current shares, outstanding shares that were traded, etc. And show you all many different ways to do this. So if you are teaching the next set of crazy investment bankers and traders out of your 30 students, then this is a great formula to use. And that is pretty much it. We've also have a few other ones that I want to breeze through really quickly. Lost. Google Translate formula that actually is pretty useful. And how it's useful, let's say I've got here in this spreadsheet, you can simply show the spreadsheet, and in the spreadsheet, go to the live form. I simply say, give me your name and give me your comments. I can send this to anybody around the world. Immediately, they write, hey, this is cool. You can write some Chinese here. You can write some French, write some Spanish. We have a formula that's called detect language, and it'll give you back the two-letter code of what that language is. And from there, you can use equals Google Translate to cite based on the language, based on the comments. You can actually translate it to English. You say the third parameter is I want to translate this to EN, which is English, and from there, translate to say that was an interesting presentation. The dog ate my homework. The weather is very hot, sun. And for that, you can translate all of that back to Spanish. So for those of us who the climate is the sun, but very hot. So, again, translation is not entirely perfect, but you can do this to quickly get a quick glance of all your responses from around the world. So this is another great way to just kind of really help bridge the multicultural gap and encourage communication around the world. So the equals Google Translate formula is perfect for that. Okay, I think at this point I'd be glad to open it up to questions. I'll be glad to answer any of these questions.
Yes, if you guys can ask your questions in the Q&A box, that would be great. I know there was one question on maybe just trying to show a nested if statement, and since you ran out of time, maybe just with two ifs.
Okay.
If you know what I mean. Like for awesome and good or something similar. And if any of you have any other requests or questions, just type them into the Q&A box, and that way everybody can see and I can reply in there or pass it on to Ronald so he can show you some of the feature that you're requesting.
Any other questions? I want to make sure.
There's one about inserting images into forms, which...
No, yes, I get this question a lot. A lot of folks want the ability to insert images to forms, and I do too, but we haven't got to that feature yet. It's on the list, but we just haven't got to building that feature. And, we get there, but not in near term. It's just on our radar here.
One of the workarounds that you've suggested to people in the past are to embed the form into a Google site and then be able to include images on the page in Google Site.
Oh, yes, that's right. Sorry, thank you, Dana. The other way to do this is to pull up a Google site, and by simply embedding the form in the site, let's go to Google site here. Get back to that nested if statement. Site. Okay. Edit page. Now insert let's change layout to a two-column layout, for example. I can insert I can insert form that I created. Is that test? The form is inputted here, and here I can insert an image and I can insert from image from anywhere. I can upload an image from my computer, etc. And from there, by simply uploading an image, you'll get the image here and hit save. Here you can have your text that says the image to the right. What do you see and what do you want to show? So look up some examples here. I can answer in the meantime.
Somebody's asking about the ability to merge cells vertically.
Oh man, that is probably the other one that I get asked a lot, and I would say that feature is on the to-dos, and there's somebody working on it right now, which is great.
And a person asks about the gauges, and is there any chance that you can customize the type of gauge in the future?
No, probably not. I think it's a good question, but you can the only customization we offer there is just simply extending the ranges for which the gauge, for which color is on the gauge. Yeah, it's the best. Not the answer you want to hear, but that we haven't had that on there just yet.
There are several people who are requesting your Crazy Things webinar. Crazy things you can do with Google Spreadsheets. So we'll have to try and get you back.
Okay, that would be great. Yes,
super advanced.
I would love to do that. There's a lot of really nuts things that you could do. We've had, and the really fun thing is that when I was looking up, in my natural laziness, when I was looking up self-grading quizzes, it is amazing what is out there. I literally went to Google and said self-grading Google Spreadsheet forms, and believe it or not, there's a lot of things out there, including somebody from screencast-o-matic.com who used Screencast-o-matic to actually just show how to create a self-grading quiz. Now, the funny thing is, if you're like me and you've done this for a while, notice that this Google Spreadsheet is a ridiculously old Google Spreadsheet, like Google Docs list. So this is at least 2 or 3 years old. But even then, people are already using forms in the self-grading style. So that's very, very exciting for us.
And then she's also asking if forms are 508 compliant, I think, for accessibility.
I'm not sure. That's a good question. For accessibility, in Google Docs, we are working to make sure we're fully accessible for all of our applications. And we take that pretty.
A good resource to check out is google.com/accessibility for information about all the different Google products there. And if Ronald doesn't know, there's probably some more information there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so it's really simple.
Oh, yeah.
If good, if great.
Okay. Let's see what we're trying to do here. So an if statement saying that, a nested statement being that if you have an if statement inside, you actually put lots and lots of things in there first. What that means is that in the if statement, you have three different what we call parameters, right? You have some parameters. Things that the first is whether it's true or false. So in this case, what I did before was saying, is great equal to good? In which case the answer is no, because great is not equal to good. But good is equal to good, that equals true. And what that means is, let's try this very simply. If it is equal to good, then display 1 or display 0, right? The answer will be 100. You can simply there. But you can do interesting things like when we start talking about nested, you can actually put formulas within formulas. In this case, we have something called AND, right? If AND is good is equal to good, great is equal to great, then that displays true. Just to prove it to you, I would have a separate column out here that says AND good is equal to good is false. Well, it's certainly true. Let's see what happens. Uh-oh. Wait, well, correct. You can't put that in there. You can't put. You can't. Sorry. So those are very silly examples, but if you put anything else here, you can easily see what this will. There we go. It equals true. So what I'm saying here is that this first condition, if that's equal, then this second condition, then it's equal to true. And you can then use that to say, for example, if the student answered if they answered the first one right, the second one right, they're able to make that true. So you can use the word and, you can use and ors to try and link multiple things together, and then you take that value into true, that end value, and add that to the if formula inside. So if that is true, then give them 100 points. If it's not equal to true, then they're given no points. One quick example of this is, let's say, so question 1 and question 2, right? You can come up with a little more complex questions like this. And again, you can write this in the form. I don't have time to make a form, but I'm just kind of putting answers down. Let's say the first answer was cheese and the second answer was salami, and you're able to say, well, if you answered cheese or salami in either one of them, let's use or now. If the first one is equal to cheese, or the second one here was equal to roast beef, this will end up being true. You're saying one or the other. So, for example, if you have more complex questions that you can ask, you can spread those into two separate questions and use the or statements like that. Now, if you do that, you can then take this entire or you can simply say, if this is equal to true, then 100 points, or give them 0 points, right? You can prove this to yourself by saying that if this has to be cheese, this has to be roast beef. If I change this to bread, for example, this would be false, and the student would get 0 points. And then kind of come up with more complex things as well. So this one, okay. Now, if you want to, so I'm trying to build up to this nested if statement here. So then you can, when we say nested if statement, we really mean you can add any formula within that if statement that outputs to true or false. So or and are also great ones as well. If you want to do, let's try and do a nested if statement here. So let's try and do this all in one row here. If this is, let's try to create a new one here. Example, let's use good, great, awesome again. Great. So let's tell it to great. If this is equal to good, that give 100 points or 0 points. Trying to see. Now you can see why this is a little advanced here. I'm trying to really make sure I don't mess this up. So it's good, 100. So if it's equal to good, then give them 100 points and not give them 0. If this is equal to 0, then a second here. All right. I would just do this outside and send this over because I really don't want to mess this up, and I'm confusing myself with all of these formulas here. I have to just send this out afterwards, and it's probably the best way.
Well, we're already a little bit over time, but for those of you whose questions weren't answered, I'll try and make sure Ronald can answer them in text via our Q&A transcript. Again, thank you for joining us, and you'll receive a link to the recording of this webinar, Ronald's outline of the features that he went over, and the transcript of the Q&A that happened here. So thank you so much for leading the presentation, Ronald.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure.